Greetings and shalom. Here we are. It's so good to be able to join you live here on this platform on YouTube. It's the first of what I hope would be quite a few broadcasts of this nature. Thank you so much for being here. And I appreciate the time you will take at this hour to tune in and to share this moment with me. Would you please let me know whether you can hear clearly and you can see clearly? Shalom to all of you. I have chosen, as I said, this platform because it is less loud, and I'm certainly glad. All is clear, great. And I hope you would not have some of the troubles I'm having on Facebook in terms of being unable to see your comments in real time in many cases. So some people think that I may be ignoring them, but I do not. Welcome to this broadcast. This, as well, is a very critical moment, for there have been quite a few of these critical moments in Guyana. Thank you so much, Pedro. And my assignment for being here this evening is to certainly speak to, first of all, the church, and secondly, not the church as in just people who go to church, but the body of Messiah. And secondly, to speak to those who have a serious vested interest in that which is upright. And I thank you all for sharing the broadcast with others. Of course, it's different from Facebook, so you may have to share the link with other people and so on. I'm certainly grateful about that. But what I know is that with this YouTube channel, a person will be able to view this broadcast without having so many hiccups as many would do on Facebook and the like. We have got, and you can see from the thumbnail that I have, we've got a matter that is pending before the Caribbean Court of Justice. I'm hiding my face. I'm new to YouTube, so let me know if you can see me clearly. Somebody's asking why am I hiding my face. Is there anybody who's streaming in the house that can track? Kindly, you can check for me, please. Okay, somebody's going to check. One of my editors, one of my daughters will check to ensure that I can be seen, say from the top of my glasses. Just tell me where I'm being seen.
You're good.
Okay, my daughter said I'm fine. So let me see the image, please. You can come this way. Because it's a new platform, persons are beginning to join. I just want to ensure we have everything right, so they can see. Okay, I'm pretty clear. So I'm not hiding anything. I was wondering whether I should put the phone in landscape, if that'd be better, would it? Would it be better, Shekinah? In landscape?
Yeah.
Okay, so some person said I'm fine. Thank you so much for the feedback. All right? I know some of the comments are coming before me, but I'm here. It's good?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. So we have a matter before the Caribbean Court of Justice. And in this matter, let me first, for those of you new to the channel and who are new to certain matters, what I know is that there are many Guyanese. One thing I'm grateful for some people, is that these electoral processes, which are still ongoing, it is almost an embarrassment for me to have to announce to people who are close to me in the United States of America, in Britain, in other countries around the world, very close to me, for me to explain to you that since March the 2nd, there was an election to determine who will be president. And if you notice on my thumbnail, there's a dog, there's a mongrel. In the Bahamas, we call them potcakes. In Guyana, we call them, what we call them at home? Common breed dogs. Rice eaters, right. That's a ricey. And the reason why I put that dog there is because this is what Guyana has become. Yap, 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 and there's nothing behind your bark. There's nobody scared, nobody is taking the nation seriously. So my thumbnail has a dog for a reason. And it doesn't have any purebred pit bull or Rottweiler or one of these aggressive dogs. It has got a common breed dog, a mongrel, a pot cake, they say in the Bahamas, a ricey, as they say in Guyana. It's for a reason, because that is exactly what this nation has come down to. A mocking stock, making lots of noise, and nobody takes us seriously. Why? Because our leaders have been successful at one thing, which is to cause our country, and I'm speaking to leaders across the board, both in the major parties, they've been successful at causing over time this country to become a mocking stock. Hence the topic, the CCJ's pending decision, because they'll announce the decision tomorrow, and the other aspect is, or what? What would you do? And I'm happy that dogs are barking around here. What would Guyana do? What can you do? Everyone who has some degree of a voice has already shown scant regard for our nation. And all that our politicians, not even the president, all that people are doing is whenever it suits them, they share and they scream, yes, you see, this person's agreeing with us. If it doesn't suit them, oh, you shouldn't get involved in this. You're being bought by this one. You're being paid by that one. You're betraying with it. Is a disgrace. It's an embarrassment for me to have to tell people who are close to me that since the 2nd of March, we are now to the 7th or so of July, according to Pope Gregory's calendar, and we still have not had the results of these elections declared by the relevant authorities. I am not joking. I am absolutely serious. And tomorrow there will not be likely anything called the result published. I am not joking. From the 2nd of March, there were elections held in Guyana, South America. We are in July, and there has still not been a declaration as to whom the next president or the incumbent president returning is. This is beyond disgraceful. But I'm happy because Yahweh's word is always true. Yahweh has never lied, and he will never lie. And he has said to me since 2016 to declare to the president of this country, the president, that there shall be great confusion. Great confusion if he fails to bring to justice those who are responsible for robbing the people of this country and for seeking to cause great despair to come upon people in Guyana. The president would have initiated certain agencies to become active or to be formed, like the State Asset Recovery Unit, SARU, and SOCO, and all these different places. And to this day, there has not been one politician from the People's Progressive Party Civic, one CEO appointed by any of these people, one who has been put in jail. Jennifer Westford and her right-hand person, secretary, whatever it is, they were charged through an investigation. And $650 million Guyana dollars were missing from the ministry Westford is responsible for. And to this day, all she was told in the court is that she's free to go. And there's no one else has been charged. No one else has been brought to justice. And $650 million Guyana of our taxpayers' money is just out the window, and we have to replace it, of course. There's a fiber optic cable that I think is Ramatar's son, the former president's son, was contracted to have come from Brazil to Guyana to give us extremely fast internet service. The cost of that project was 2 billion Guyana dollars. To this day, more than 15 years later, just about I think, we have no such service. People are tying boats on the wire, on the cable. And nobody's been in prison. $4.1 million would have been spent from the taxpayers' money on that project. And there's nothing wrong in some people's eyes with that situation. Now here we are, having an electoral process. And what do we have? March, April, May, June, July, 4 months. And no one knows whether David Granger is re-elected or whether Irfan Ali, the shadow president, because Barjagli will be running the country, is the president. So the Caribbean Court of Justice is a body that was formed to almost replace what is called the Privy Council. The Privy Council would be the highest court. It's not in the Caribbean, it's in England. And because most countries in the Caribbean were Commonwealth, if not all of them, they were once led by Britain. So the laws of Britain is generally the law of the Caribbean, common law. So what they decided is, okay, we would not be having to go all the way to the Privy Council to deal with matters. We'll form a Caribbean court. And in this Caribbean court, they will seek to have jurisdiction over certain matters. That's basically what the Caribbean Court of Justice is all about. So some countries have got within the nation a court that they will deem the highest court in the land. Shalom to all of you. Or the most superior court in the land. In Guyana, on our soil, it's called the appellate court or the court of appeal. There's some matters that if a person does not feel as though the court of appeal has served them well or acted in fairness, they have a right to appeal to a higher court. In the olden days, it would have been the Privy Council. Today, it is the Caribbean Court of Justice. The matter at hand is whether the Caribbean Court of Justice has jurisdiction. Because for any court to rule in a matter, the court must first establish that it has jurisdiction, or the power or the authority to rule in that regard. What has happened over time is, and I've been fortunate enough to sit in a matter in which something like that occurred, and it was a family matter that I had, not family crisis, but a business issue that my family was dealing with. And we were able to discover, and I'm fortunate I can speak to this now from experience, the person who was seeking to rob our family, they lost the matter on the ground that they would have sought to get to a court that had no jurisdiction to hear the matter. So I can tell you exactly what it's speaking about. What happens though is the court has to first hear, you call it hear, what the case is. So that is why the Caribbean Court of Justice had to hear what the Barajagdu and Anil Nandlal were bringing to them. They have to hear it. And in the legal sense, they have to hear it because it's only fair for the judges to hear what the complaint is. Then, after hearing, they will say, okay, we have the right or the authority or jurisdiction to rule in this matter, or we do not have it. That's all they came to. What are you bringing to us? What is the issue at hand? Okay, we've heard your complaint, we've heard the argument, then we've heard from the other side, who is saying, well, okay, we don't think you have jurisdiction. Because the APNU FC doesn't want the CCJ to have jurisdiction, because in the Constitution doesn't lend itself to that. And then the court of the CCJ, they don't want the CCJ to say they have jurisdiction. This is what I want my fellow Guyanese to hear this evening and to be very clear on. Tomorrow being Wednesday, the Caribbean Court of Justice is going to make a decision as to whether they have the authority to rule on the appellate court decision that, number one, and most importantly, more votes in the Constitution or in the law of Guyana speaks to only valid votes being counted in election. But additionally, the Caribbean Court of Justice will have to say whether the matter before the appellate court was brought to the right court. And that's the critical aspect here. Because one side is saying that Article 177 is speaking to the president being elected out of this election, which is what happens. Some are saying, no, let's look at Article 163 of the Constitution, where it speaks to the House being elected. Now, I want to speak to the Caribbean Court of Justice and Guyana. In this matter, I sat and I witnessed quite a bit of the exchange in the Caribbean Court of Justice. I pay attention to them because I said to you people in Guyana before, and to Guyanese at large, that I have lived, and many of you have testified, and I'm happy that you have. It's public. It's known throughout many agencies that the Caribbean Court of Justice, or the Caribbean, Guyana is not a part of the Caribbean geographically speaking. Just know that, please. Guyana is a part of the Caribbean by language because we speak English. We are not a part of the Caribbean in terms of geography. And they tell us that to our faces. There's a word called xenophobia, where you are despised because of where you are, where you're from. All of us have the same color in the Caribbean in general. And people who look like me, and of course Trinidad has East Indian people as well, they have an issue with you because of the country that you're from. And I have said it, and I will continue to say it, because I have seen enough in the news. There have been matters raised even at CARICOM level as to how Guyanese and in some cases Jamaicans were being treated at the CARICOM level throughout the Caribbean because people felt that we did not deserve to be in their countries. But I'm speaking for Guyana. Now, there is something within me that continues to remind me that the Caribbean Court of Justice should not be a court that Guyana should be a part of, because I do not trust anybody who is from a country that is xenophobic in its nature. If you are from a country or a territory that doesn't like Guyanese people, I don't want you to have anything to do with Guyanese matters, because I would never think. It's been good to see all of you. I would never see these people ruling in the best interest of Guyana. Never. This same Caribbean Court of Justice, because they don't live here, these judges don't live in Guyana, they couldn't care less about Guyana. These are the same people who, without even considering the general nature of the Guyanese public, the masses of Guyanese public, do not have a liking for men dressing as women and walking the street as if they're girls. It is not within our nature. Even the sodomites have said that they do not represent the majority of the population, and they said they are a very minor and minute group in reference to numbers in this country. But that very CCJ said that improper dressing for a man is not specific enough, so a man could dress like a female. When in our general, throughout the years of this country, every average Guyanese understood what being improperly dressed as a man meant, in the context of whether he dresses like a woman or a man. It was the CCJ that made a ruling that despised our very law. So a man, in essence, according to them, a male teacher could choose tomorrow to dress like a female and go to work. That's what the CCJ has done to our country. Guyana should have nothing to do with this court. Because I say to you again, if you do not like my people, you should not rule in their affairs. That's my policy. It's very simple for me. But of course, we have presidents like, I think Barra Jagdeo was the one who signed on to it and agreed with it. Okay, let's deal with CCJ. My issue as Guyanese is this. In America, in the United States of America, I should say, because Guyana is part of America, South America, you have Latin America, you have North America. Guyana is a part of one of the Americas. And in the United States of America, they have a Supreme Court. You can pass through all of the local courts, you can go through the state and all the rest of it, but when you get to the Supreme Court in America, and those judges make a ruling, they represent America. They're familiar with America. They have an interest in America, it should be. And they don't go beyond that. Of course, unless it's an international crime. That's when you have the Hague that comes into equation. But I'm speaking here to an internal matter. Within the nation of America, the Supreme Court makes decision for America, is the highest court in America. My issue is this. Why do we as a nation always seek to, well, not we, because I'm not a part of the party, but why do our leaders try their best to drag us as a people into bowing to people all the time from some other country? What is wrong with our appellate court? Why couldn't we say we're going to leave the Privy Council and we're going to respect the authority of the appellate court? No, our leaders couldn't do that. What do they have to do? Bow to somebody else who doesn't like you. It is disgusting. Guyana must have the lot of leaders who are the weakest in this world. I love international relations. Of course, you can sense that by now. I love interacting with people. Maybe that's why. In reference to getting to understand cultures and getting to familiar with other people. Maybe because I traveled so much. But I have an issue with the leadership of this nation in general. They amount to some of the weakest people I know. So, there's a matter before the CCJ. On this case, that we're going to hear what they'll decide upon. The APNU AFC supporters have decided they'll take to the streets and they're going to say, respect our constitution. They have placards and they're in the street. Respect our constitution. Respect our constitution. The appeal court has ruled. You have to respect the constitution. My question to them is, or what? Or what? That's what the topic is all about. And I have the dog on the thumbnail to show you. Or what? What would you do? Your leaders have you on the street as though you don't have any degree of understanding as to how weak they are. If the CCJ says tomorrow that they have jurisdiction, what do you do? That is what this broadcast is about. Because your president has not led you down any path that says that he's certain about what he intends to do. And he is deliberate about his intention. So if the Caribbean Court of Justice decides, which I expect them to do, because I don't trust them, period. And all in a matter of jurisdiction, all the judges have to say is, listen, you say we don't have jurisdiction, we have jurisdiction. You cannot do anything to them after that, because you are before the court to hear whether they think, based on the interpretation of the law, that they have jurisdiction. That's all there is that happens. Your placard don't mean anything to judges in the CCJ, because they don't live here. They have no interest in Guyana. They have, as far as I know, unless they get some money later in the future for whatever reason. But these people at the Caribbean Court of Justice do not reside in this country. So what would you tell them? Don't come to Guyana? Is that what you tell them? You can't come to our country? Who says they want to be here? I'm asking you a very serious question. Our leaders have taken us to join a court or be a part of a court. And what's laughable to me is the court is located in Trinidad and Tobago, and Trinidad is not even a signatory to that court. Trinidad don't want anything to do with Caribbean Court of Justice. You could build a building in Trinidad, but we're not coming to you to be the final authority in any matter for us. We have an appellate court. We are a cooperative republic. We are an independent nation, and still we headed to CCJ for foolishness. And so my question to you is, or what? What can your leaders do if the CCJ says that they have jurisdiction? What would David Granger do? What? You go to the streets again? You hold placard up and run around the place again? What would you do? Because what I'm observing more and more is that many Guyanese are waiting to hear what their leader has to say so that they can take to the street, be it PPP Civic or APNA FC. Just hear what the leader has to say, well, not what the law says. Just hear what your leaders are saying, and then you become a parrot and you just chase after what they're saying. And in the case of APNA FC, your leader's not saying much anyway. So you listen to what his agents are saying and those subordinates of his are saying, and whatever they say, you take it and run around with it because you don't even understand what they said. The matter before the CCJ in reference to their jurisdiction, I'm saying to you, do not follow crazy people. If, and I've observed the CCJ's conduct, and when I observed their conduct on that day of the hearing, I realized wholeheartedly, and I don't have to say this to you again, I do not support any political party. Of course, the people Pacific don't understand that because most of their followers are just stupid people. Because if somebody like me would be called a supporter of APNA FC, something is wrong with their heads. But I support the law. I support what is right. In the matter before them, if we observed Saunders and these judges in the CCJ, the president is Saunders, you could see that the matter before these people is Article 177.4 was ruled upon by the appellate court. And the appellate court ruled that in any election of a president of Guyana, only valid votes must determine who that person is. It sounds fair enough to me. I'm just simplifying it for those of you because, of course, we don't have to go into deep law for this. The only person who should be president of this country is one who was elected by means of only votes that can be validated. Nothing else. I thought that was a foregone conclusion. But apparently it isn't. If you're going to elect somebody to lead your country, if you're a decent person, which we really have in Guyana right now, if you are a law-abiding citizen, and I begin to realize that there are many people who do not fall into the category either, especially this political time right here, then your only interest should be not that your party wins, but that the law that governs how the party wins is maintained. That's what I would like to think. And so, if the appellate court would have said that only that when you see more votes, because of obviously if the appellate court has to say more votes means more valid votes, because somebody was saying no, just votes, not the validity of the vote, just the votes should determine the winner. Whether they're invalid or they're valid, just let it be votes that determine the winner. Article 177 is plain. Of the Constitution is clear. This is what I saw the Caribbean Court of Justice judges doing. And any of you who are who's fair-minded can observe and say exactly what you saw. What the judges were doing was, they have a matter before them that speaks to Article 177.4. For the life of me, these judges kept trying to turn the AFC attorneys in the direction of Article 163. When the matter before them is if the appellate court rule accurately according to Article 177.4. They keep trying to push the lawyers to say, okay, no, let's look at Article 163, because Article 163 speaks to an election petition in essence, more or less, or in the context that, okay, you have to first have the election, there has to be a declaration made on the election, somebody has to be deemed the president of the, I thought I said it to you from day one in the beginning, as a matter of fact, from the beginning of all this foolishness, since March, the first week of March, go with the law. There's an election. The election is only completed when the Chancellor of the Judiciary swears in the President. I thought that I said that to you from the first week of March, but of course I was racist according to PPP Civic. I was false according to Abnesi Church supporters. So nobody had time to listen, which is fine. But the reality is before you now, though, because even at that high level, they're saying to you, the election itself is an entire process, which I said to you from the beginning, but it didn't matter either. And the election cannot be ruled, and Claudette Singh herself should have known this as a chairman. You cannot enter into a recount when you have not yet verified the count at your highest level, which is called the commissions of GCOM. It's a process. So contrary to the law, the process must be finished. Then an election petition is filed with the Supreme Court, not the appellate court. So the CCJ will keep insisting. The judges are saying, well, why didn't you go to the Supreme Court? Why go to the appellate court? Why wasn't there a petition filed first? Because they want to have jurisdiction. And for the CCJ to have jurisdiction, they cannot have it in Article 177.4. There's no way they can have it, because that deals specifically with the president of the country being elected. They don't want that, and that's what the appellate court dealt with. The CCJ doesn't want that. That's what was before them. No, what they want is go to Article 163, because with 163, then we can have a matter to talk about. And I hope you're getting my point. Judges that I've observed at the Caribbean Court of Justice want to have jurisdiction because they do not have any interest in Guyana at heart. None whatsoever. And I can agree with them to some extent in the context that our political leaders have made a mockery of this country, not because they love the country, but because they love power. They have no issue embarrassing this country on an international scale repeatedly and causing the people of Guyana to look like stupid people. They don't have a problem with that. Can you imagine if you have a friend or a relative who resides abroad? They've never come to Guyana, but they have some interest because you live here. And since March, there was an election. And you have to have in July a conversation with them saying, we don't know who the president is in reference to the newly appointed or the incumbent. Do you know how disgraceful that is? So with all that's happening in Guyana, my question continues to be, what can the APNU AFC leader in the person of the president, David Arthur Granger, do if the CCJ says we have jurisdiction? And as long as they say that, they say the appellate court was wrong. Now what? I expect them to say that. I expect them to say the appellate court was wrong, because it should be an election petition first. What do you do as a nation? What do we do as a people? What can your leaders do? If all that you can do is take to the streets of Guyana to protest about a ruling from the CCJ which is in Trinidad, you are wasting your time. If all that you can do is have live broadcasts and two people just talk and another one speaks and another one gives his view and her view, you are wasting your time. At this stage, I'll direct your attention to a matter, because of course COVID-19 is still active. But I'll direct your attention to a matter. In the United States of America, that Guyana can take note of, although you're too weak to do it. If you follow the news, Donald Trump, be it good or bad, had an issue with the World Health Organization because of COVID-19. Guess what Donald Trump did? Because he's of the view that the World Health Organization leadership are if the World Health Organization leadership are in cahoots with China and covering up for China. So guess what Donald Trump did? Somebody typed it already. Donald Trump pulled the USA out of the WHO. That's called a decisive leader. As stupid as you say he is, as weak as you say he is, as whatever you want to say he is, he did something that this president of Guyana cannot do, as far as I'm concerned. He made a decision. We are not going to give you our money, and we want nothing to do with you. That's called decisive leadership. He had the thought. Whoever advised him, WHO, they are not working for us. They may be on China's side, because of course Trump used to call the COVID-19 China's virus. So Trump said, okay, if you don't want to act in the best interest of what we feel as Americans, don't take our money, and we're leaving. That's a decisive leader. That's a courageous leader. That's a leader who doesn't have a problem with the whole world saying I have a problem with you. A nation like Guyana needs courage at the top, needs fortitude at the top, needs excessive strength at the top. Now permit me at this forum as well, because I know some people are going to say, well, why is Guyana before the International Court of Justice? In our country, what I've discovered is basic observation. Our politicians and the neophytes, the new parties as well who've come on board, trying to be presidents and leaders of this country, they have also joined the club of parrots. Very good question from someone named Simon Blackman. Does the president need parliament to vote in order to pull out of CCJ? Yes, because that decision has to be ascended to by parliament. So more than likely, it is needed. We have no parliament. And I can tell you, I would be shocked if the apnea of C were to be the winner of this election, they go to parliament and there's any vote from Guyana to say we live in CCJ. I'll be pleasantly surprised, as they say. But even Simon, even if the president doesn't say that or have a vote to leave, he can speak to that direction. Because what you want is like what Donald Trump was doing. Donald Trump from the beginning was telling the WHO organization, we don't trust y'all. Before they even left, Trump kept saying, I don't want to deal with you. What we want to have, or what Guyana should have, is a leader who's prepared to speak to things so that the CCJ and everybody in the Caribbean can know, we do not trust y'all. This has nothing to do with PP Pacific or APNU AFC. It has to do with the nation of Guyana and how these Caribbean people feel about us. But for too long, our political leaders love to use every opportunity that they have to stretch the law as far as they think they can stretch it to remain in power and influence and have influence. It is nauseating. It is disgusting, to say the least. There is nothing that Guyana can do if the CCJ decides, I'm talking about political Guyana, that is, if the Caribbean Court of Justice decides that they have jurisdiction, your leaders who have you on the street walking up and down making noise, we'll have you there again. But there's nothing you can do about it. What they'd have to do is to scramble to grab lawyers again. And the other thing is, it seems as though our lawyers in Guyana are not good enough for Guyana. That's the other thing. We have you Wooding Law School graduates in your place and you senior counsel and all these councils. And when it comes to certain matters, it seems as if Guyana has got a void, a deficiency in terms of legal minds to represent political parties in Guyana. Get mad all you want. Because these lawyers here, chatter. When the Trinidadian lawyers speak and they make decisions and argue, okay, suddenly our Guyanese lawyers become knowledgeable again to speak. Even that, you cannot even respect the lawyers you have in your own country. Both sides. Because you want to go for the big guns. Just know that. All they have is money to gain. Win paid. What would it take for our leaders of this country to restore some degree of honor to us as a people? Even as a person speaking in an unbiased manner, there are still political votards who come on this platform to say, I'm representing APNA FC, or you don't want to accept defeat, and that kind of stupidity. That is why people in the Caribbean and the world do not respect this country. It is a disgrace. It's a shame that millions of dollars are being spent, not to our local attorneys, to overseas attorneys, to argue something that I said to you for free. You political leaders, from the beginning, from the second week of March, I said this to you for free. There is the law before you. Elections are only completed when the Chancellor of the Judiciary swears in a president. Until then, the process isn't finished. So you can hop all you want. You will hop outside of the boundaries of law and get yourself in trouble. And that's exactly what has happened to Guyana. So the CCJ president has said, this is a matter that we can find nowhere else in the world in reference to case law. How do we arrive at a decision? Because he's saying, you don't even have a president. No, Gonzalez is the new chairman of CARICOM, He's saying the process isn't even finished yet. And y'all are here arguing about who's president. I hope you get that in your heads. I said it to you for free. Where in the world do you find a situation in which you are debating about who is president when the results to determine who's president have not even been declared by the Guyana Elections Commission? We have a special set of crazy people in this country in various offices that are too important. There's one called Angel Joes who's making exactly the most ludicrous comments, of course. CCJ has full jurisdiction on this case because it's related to the no confidence motion. I hope it's a Guyanese who's speaking there, because I was about to say to you, that's one of the typical stupid Guyanese they talk about right here. A no confidence motion is a different matter from an election, and that's how stupid you are. And tonight I will not be in any way polite to any one of you. If you come on my page, this broadcast, speaking like a fool, I'll address you exactly as that. So Angel Joes, whoever the person is, you're a typical fool. A no confidence motion is a vote that took place in the parliament, in the House of Assembly. It is not an electoral issue. That's how stupid you are, and I'll address it to you again. An electoral issue is when the population, electorate votes to determine who represents them in parliament and who's president. It has nothing to do with no confidence motion. And the likes of you, multiplied by 50, 100, 50,000, has this country in the state it is. Why, my question to you all is, why does Guyana have a constitution? Why? Why do you have a constitution? If the articles of the constitution, whenever it does not suit your political party, they can butcher it, ignore it, and just cast it aside and move forward as though it is non-existent. Why do we have a constitution in this country if those who swear when they're elected that they shall uphold the constitution disrespect it? Why do we have one? And why should the CCJ respect your constitution when your president doesn't, when your opposition leader doesn't, when all these people don't respect it? Tell me why. That's the kind of conversation I want us to have. Why are you asking the CCJ, the Caribbean Court of Justice, to respect what your own leaders do not respect? Why? When leaders do not respect the Constitution, why should the Caribbean Court of Justice judges respect it? And Angel Jones is a fool again, and I'll take a few moments to address this stupid person because it's a typical idiot from the PPP Civic Party. So he's now saying the CCJ is in the Constitution. That is how idiotic again and parroting these people are. They're just like parrots. The CCJ is ruling on whether it has jurisdiction because of the fact that it doesn't have jurisdiction across the board. The CCJ is not the ultimate or the highest court of law in every matter constitutional in this country. And you're too stupid to know that. Because according to the law, Article 177, the CCJ cannot rule, period, as to who can be president of Guyana. But you're too stupid to know that as well. The law is clear in this, and your leader Barjag, you signed on that law. According to Article 177, of the Constitution, the Caribbean Court of Justice cannot ever overrule the appellate court in reference to who's the president. Never. Which tells you then that they do not have extensive jurisdiction. But of course you don't understand what I just said either. So what I would advise you to do is give Anil your phone, because Anil can understand the things I said, although he wouldn't say it fully. But give him your phone. And let Anil type for you, because you're way too stupid to type for yourself at this moment. I proceed. And you're ignored. If the leaders of this country do not respect Guyana's constitution, why should the Caribbean Court of Justice judges do? I would like for somebody to tell me that. Do not forget that when our constitution that had a criminal offense armed to it, the Criminal Offences Act, Article 351 and 354, those articles, speak to same-sex sexual relationships. It's illegal in this country. If a man seeks a illicit buggery from another man, he could be sentenced to 2 to 10 years in prison, according to the law of Guyana. The president of this country, the current president, said he's prepared to respect any consenting adult who engages in that behavior. So if he cannot respect, if the president cannot respect the law of Guyana, why should the Caribbean Court of Justice respect the same constitution that he's talking about? That's what I'm asking you. Why? The Constitution makes it clear. If there is an election, general and regional election, especially general election, to determine who the parliamentarians and the assembly, in terms of numerical division, and the presidency, the law is clear. When you vote, and some of you become very uncomfortable this time right here because you can't take it, but you choke all you want. The law in Guyana is dangerous for Guyana right now, because the law regarding elections in this country point to fairness to a degree that our politicians, this current crop, can't deal with. They're too wicked to deal with the electoral laws of Guyana. Get mad all you want. The electoral laws of this country, the Representation of the People Act, and the Constitution of this country, it has too much fairness for this current crop of politicians to handle, and for GCOM to handle at this time. And I will tell you that right now in reference to what I'm saying to you. The law of Guyana regarding elections is simple. It is extremely simple. This is what it says to you. There are people who enter the race, as you call it. They run. They enter the race to be leaders of the country. They're candidates. The general population who vote is called the electorate. The electorate on polling day will go and cast their vote for whoever they want to lead them. I'm getting to what the law is that our politicians are too wicked to respect. The law in Guyana is straightforward. GCOM, the Guyana Elections Commission, is the sole body, the only body. There is no other body to handle the procedures regarding the entire electoral process. No more, I don't care what you do. So those politicians who were telling you in March that GCOM cannot be trusted, they should be in jail. Because now they want to trust Claudette Singh, but you said you can't trust her in March. Why you trust her in July? Why you trust her after the recount when you couldn't trust her in March? You told us as the punch you don't trust anybody from GCOM. Of course, apart from your PPP civic commissioners, who in Says Gunrad said that he knows that the Guyana Election Commission had in its possession the statements of poll, but he never looked at it. He said it himself before all of us. He knew it was there, but he never looked at it, but he wants to go to a recount, when the law never said that. So candidates were saying to us as the people, do not trust GCOM. GCOM has been compromised. So the law is that when you finish voting and they count and all, you go to the count and all the rest of it, okay, you have what are called statements of poll. When you get statements of poll, now here you go to declarations. This is where returning officers and deputy returning officers come in. When the returning officers make declarations, there are 10 of them. 10 districts, so you call them regions, they're voting districts. Once those 10 declarations are made, they're then furnished or given to the chief election officer, who would, of course, he also has in his possession the information. He is going to make a report, just what you see in the recount, and his report is going to be given to the chairman. That report, according to article, I think it's 170 or 70, somewhere around there. I can't remember the exact numbers of the articles. That report advises the chairman of GCOM as to whom the president is. No, you cannot sue the president fraudulent result. And that's in reference to Neil's question. That report advises the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission as to what the results are. It gives a breakdown as to how many seats each party will have or each candidate can have available to them. And of course, the one with the most is determined the winner. That's general rule of the election. Now let's get into the part where Guyana cannot seem to get it right yet. The law regarding elections in Guyana is clear. If any single person, barring election has happened, the counts are taking place, person can say, I object. You miscounted my ballots, whoever it is, okay then, let's have a recount at the station. That's one request. Or at the regional level, you can make a request by midday of the next day. It can be granted or it cannot be granted. That's the authority of the returning officer. The returning officer, by law, has the power to say you are not going to be given any recount. Just know that. Because some of you in Guyana have been told by a party that if you ask for a recount, they have to do it. There's no such law. There is no such law in Guyana. None. But I can promise you that there'll be some donkey, and a donkey according to the dictionary is a person who's extremely stupid. Just know that. It's not an animal in the field. According to the dictionary, a donkey is a person who's excessively, extremely stupid. So I'm saying to you that some donkey on this broadcast, or right here, is going to form the opinion that as long as the party says they want to recount, they have to have it. There's no such law, by the way, and I dare you to check it for yourself. The law is that if by midday after the returning officer makes a declaration, by midday you have the following day to say you appeal. In essence, you want to recount. The returning officer can say no, you don't have it because I see no need for it. That's it. Case closed. That's actually the law in Guyana, by the way. That's the law. So what do you do then? The law is still clear for you. You have to then wait for the CEO who would have given the report to the chairman. The chairman then, based on that report, now this nonsense secret this thing wants to try here, based on what the chief elections officer presents, the chairman then would advise the chancellor, write to the chancellor, and say, we have got the results. Kindly swear this person in based on the results that we have. The chancellor of the judiciary swears in the president. Here is where Guyana has a problem. According to the law of Guyana, any party, any of the 10, 11, 12, because I lost count of them, by the way, any of those parties has got the right by law, any and every one of them, to file a petition within 28 days to say we felt that we were unjustly treated in the electoral process. You know why? Because once the president is sworn in, then the elections are over. We have politicians in this country who should go back to school after this is over, because some of them don't even know our laws. That is the law of Guyana. There's no law in Guyana that says that within the process between the returning officer's declaration and the chairman's report being given to the CEO's report being given to the chairman, there can be something called a recount, a national recount. There is no such law in Guyana. There is no law that says if you don't agree with the CEO's report, you could tell him, change these numbers, give me another report. Change that number, give me something else. Change it, give me something else, until I get what I want. There is no such law in Guyana. The chief elections officer is responsible for everything called elections in Guyana. And he's the only individual who can file a report with numbers on it and give to the chairman. Nobody else can do it. None. As long as he's able-bodied and he's of sound mind, nobody could touch it. That's the law. Why are you before the CCJ then? That's my question. I'm saying all this to ask you the question. Why is Guyana now at the CCJ level? Why? because our politicians do not respect our laws. They hate our law. It doesn't work in their best interest. They would rather not deal with our laws. But they force us to accept the law. Guyana's election or electoral laws were not written for thievery to be involved, because the Carter Center system is what we're using. And the Carter Center system is supposed to be this amazing system that gives us all of this accuracy and transparency and repeated, we call repeater systems, whereby if you miss one, you catch them along the line here, and all that. The worst, it's a good thing though. I'm speaking as a Guyanese in our vernacular. The worst thing about Guyana's law for election is this: that the election or electoral laws in Guyana, it is extremely rigid when it comes to validity of votes. Because remember now, the Carter Center came here because the complaint was that PNC always rigging. Don't forget that. That's been the cry. The PNC always rigged. Great. So the Carter Center came to fix the problem. Guess what they did? They ensured that their system guarantees that every vote can be validated. Get mad, because that's all you can do, and speak like a fool. So what does the Carter Center guarantee? You have to prove your identity. And your identity, in reference to who you are, must be matched by an official list called the official list of electors. You cannot divorce the two, which is what they want to do in this recount process. You cannot divorce the two, according to the law of Guyana. According to our country's laws, which people are trying to throw out the window, you have got to have proof that you're Guyanese. Prove that you are who you are, and then prove that your name is on a list, official list, that entitles you to vote. And once you vote, they have to cross your name off on that list to say, well, on this day, at this station, you prove who you were, and you were given a ballot. This is what you were given, and your name is crossed off because you voted. That's the Carter Center system. It doesn't lend itself to anybody having a ballot in their hand that is a valid ballot without proof being in GCOM's possession that that person is an official list of electors. And you criminal-minded Guyanese, many of you, you evil-minded Guyanese, many of you are okay as usual with breaking the law. Or YouTube has a timeout. So Angel Jones is on timeout. Jones is on timeout. Gone. Too stupid to be on my broadcast. So I want to close with tonight by reminding you as Guyanese to not have yourself entangled and embroiled in emotional and emotionally charged rhetoric from your political candidates tomorrow, because they're setting you up and they're playing with you. I am telling you that there's nothing that the APNU AFC can do if the CCJ rules that they have jurisdiction. The only thing they can do is to scamper for Trinidadian lawyers to help them, or lawyers from wherever else in the world, because Guyanese lawyers are not good enough. We have an attorney general who's called the Minister of Legal Affairs, and he cannot even argue for his own country's well-being. It's just tragic. But yet he's given the authority to be the general, attorney general for Guyana. But he cannot speak to and hold a straight argument across the board for Guyana's law regarding electoral processes. It could be in his defense that he tried to advise the president, I don't know, and the president taking advice, so the president jumped into what is called a recount, which is illegal, or extra constitutional. It is not in the Constitution. It is nowhere there. So you shouldn't enter into it if it's not found in your law. The president of Guyana, whoever he is, whoever she is, will always have to swear before they can sit in that office to uphold the Constitution. Not friendship with CARICOM. The Constitution. So anything that's not in the Constitution of your country, you should never agree to it. Which is what the Attorney General does your job. You should be able to advise the president to say, this is not in our law, so don't agree to this. Do not even mention anything but any recount with these people, because there is no law that speaks to it. Every president, if it's a PPP candidate, APNU candidate, PNC candidate, TNM candidate, PRP candidate, whatever party you form, new, old, whatever you want to come up with, your only responsibility before you can only sit in, you can sit in any seat of office called president in this country, is that you will uphold the law of Guyana, the laws, the Constitution. Not your public image. Not how people feel about you. You shall uphold the law. That is what every president of Guyana, whether you like them or you hate them or you despise them, that is their only responsibility, to uphold the Constitution. The supreme law of this country. If our president wants to look good in the eyes of the public, he will very rarely consistently uphold things that are constitutional. Because some things in our Constitution are just hard-lined. Like I said, one of them, you go to an election petition, period. You have a problem with the electoral process, even if Mingo and whoever else go you want to talk about. Even if that person looks at a statement of poll and changes the number on the statement of poll and say, this is my new number. 40 votes for PPP. No, I give PPP 200. 10 votes for APNU FC. I give you 0. Even if that happens before your eyes consistently, the law of Guyana states that when that process is finished, you cannot interrupt it. You cannot stop it. You cannot tell the returning officer, you're cheating. No, you can't do that. The law doesn't give you room for that. The law is clear. You have to file a petition. That is the law. Because then the court will seek to rule on the process of the election. The court doesn't seek to interfere in the process. And that's exactly what I'm happy the appellate court, because I said it to you before the appellate court ruling, that I would like for the appellate court, somebody can recall my saying this, I would be happy for the appellate court to send them back to GCOM. And that's exactly what they did. They said, more votes mean more valid votes, go back to GCOM. Let the elections commissioner, the chief election officer, do his job. The appellate says, we're not going to stop Mr. Lowenfield from doing his job. His job is to furnish the chairman with a report. So we're not going to prohibit him from doing that. We will not injunct him from doing it. He shall do it because that's the law. And people objected to that. There is no law in Guyana that permits any candidate. There is no law. I'll say it to you again. In this country that permits any candidate that permits them to accost or to speak in any harsh manner and challenge any returning officer while they're in the process of verification, or we call ascertaining the total number of votes cast. None. The law says when that process is finished, you within 24 hours, within 12 hours after that, you by midday the next day, you can write a letter saying you request a recount, and the returning officer can say no or yes, and you have a recount at that one ballot box, two ballot boxes, 10 ballot boxes. You can do that in your region. But once the returning officer says no, which is what Region 3 did, and Region 5 I think did, and 6, once they say no, a petition has to come to the court of law when the whole process is finished. We are now at the Caribbean Court of Justice. For what reason? To deal with typical xenophobes. If your hopes are high tomorrow, that because the Caribbean Court of Justice says we have no jurisdiction, you have won, I'm telling you, my final remark, or I should say before I get to the final one, Guyana will always lose, because our leaders took us to a place in 4 months that no country in the world respects us anymore. None. So you will say, some people say, well, why are we in the International Court of Justice with Venezuela? Because it's called an international court. It's not an election court. It's an international court. In other words, the Supreme Court, the Magistrate Court, the Supreme Court, or the Appellate Court, none of them has power or jurisdiction to rule in Guyana Venezuela matter. I mean, I have to break that down for some of you supporters of PPP Civic, because some of you all don't think straight. I have not, if I encounter an AFC supporter, I'll talk about them. But thus far, most of the most stupid comments I've ever heard came from PPP Civic's parrots. And it's just the truth. AFC supporters, they gun Jesus wild all the time. Everything is pray and fast as if that's supposed to give you some victory right away. And you'll see exactly what happens to you. That's all y'all could do. But when it speaks just parroting nonsense, I see it more on the PPP side. And I'm not on those people. They just throw things out there like crazy. You are before the International Court of Justice because there's no court in Guyana with jurisdiction to rule between Guyana and Venezuela. That's why you have to go to the International Court. However, there are courts in Guyana, being the Supreme Court when it comes to the electoral process, and the Appellate Court when it comes to the electoral process, that deal with our internal matters. But when you head to the Caribbean Court of Justice, for them to chastise, in essence, your appellate court, you're playing with. You're playing with a lot of trouble. Because I'm telling you for the last time that the Caribbean Court of Justice, the judges therein will, by all means, do whatever it takes to say what, in their opinion, serves their interest. It's not about Guyana's interest tomorrow. If they feel that we're excited to be happy, because remember there's no case like this before, so they become prominent, they're written into law. You have to understand what happens here. There's something called precedence. So if the judge is egotistical, that judge can think, okay, well, if I rule in this matter, then my name goes into history. It's called precedence in law. So if there's no such case in the world like this one, because there isn't any, where you don't have a complete electoral process and people hopping all around the place. Then what you'll find is the Caribbean Court of Justice judges can say, well, this is our moment to shine. We can set precedents. And once a judge has the kind of mentality, they'll agree that they have got jurisdiction. Case closed. I hope you understand that. It's not about the judges being honest. If a judge is egotistical, which I've seen at the CCJ level, because I would be shocked if they say they don't have jurisdiction, honestly speaking. Because based on the argument, they continue to try to turn people's mind towards something else. As if I'm saying to you, this man stole my chicken. I came to the judge. He stole my chicken. And the judge is saying, let's talk about the car. Where did the person buy the car from? Oh my gosh. What about the house? Why do airplanes have wings? Why do they have airlines? Why? The judge doesn't want to talk about the chicken that was stolen. The judge wants to go to everything else, because if they talk about chicken that was stolen, your honor becomes irrelevant, because that case is a done deal. Okay, it's over. No, the judge wants to be irrelevant. I would not be surprised if the Caribbean Court of Justice rules that they have jurisdiction. Why? Because if the judges, as they've shown me in many occasions, like with men dressing in Guyana, cross-dressing, if the judges want to appear to be relevant, they will say they have jurisdiction. That's the end of the matter. If the judges say tomorrow that they do not have jurisdiction, then people are going to holler. Because what it means is that Lowenfield's report goes as is. And that would be a shock to me, given the trend of things that I've seen in the CCJ. I thank you for your time. I hope that this broadcast was a bit more stable than the ones on Facebook. I hope that this platform can be served every so often, so the persons are able to receive a more controlled conversation. But just take note that some judges think that they have the right to make laws for your country, and that's trouble. Some judges interpret law, and some judges think they have the right to make it. The latter is dangerous, and the CCJ points in that direction every so often. Thank you again. If you have not done so, would you be kind enough to subscribe to this channel, please? And hit the notification bell so you can know that I'm live, because I will use this platform at least once per week. My daughters normally bombard me to use YouTube, and I think I can see why. It is less loud in terms of Facebook. I don't deal with the how many people and how many people business. I want an environment whereby you can focus, you can hear, and you cannot be continuously distracted by stupid people. So thanks again. Please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so the persons can know that I'm here, or you will know when I'm live on this broadcast. At least once per week we try to do this, all right? So shalom, blessings, and thank you all so much. Goodbye.